Good afternoon. This is not the slide that Aman has left behind. This is mine. I just want to start by saying that, the moment we say basic instinct, we're sort of conditioned and educated to believe it's probably about sex. In fact, there is a lot of consensus that this ranks sort of fourth in the list of basic instincts. Since it's quizzing trivia in my hobby, as she said, it's fight, which is the urge to fight, which is third. Sleep, which is second. The most basic one, which you are sort of born with indeed, is the one that is I'm going to talk about, hunger. The idea of talking about hunger is to try and see after a sumptuous lunch how much we can get nearer to understanding that word. This is one step at it. The dictionary definition, almost accepted, says it's just a state of not having enough to eat. Seldom somebody may say actually in this country in the media, but in the dictionary at least I found in many places they're writing this is an example of the usage of the word. He died of hunger. Never heard it in the papers much. Or a strong desire to have something is also called hunger, but I'm going to stick to the real basic one for the moment. Some of you may have seen this picture, but this was something which won the 1994 Pulitzer Prize in photography for a South African photographer called Kevin Carter. This is a picture in Sudan, taken in Sudan in the 1994 famine times. This is a picture of a girl, 2-year-old, who's struggling to actually crawl her way to the nearest UN food relief camp. That's a vulture there waiting. Apparently, I'm told vultures eat after their victim is dead. So waiting for the child to die so that it can consume. Two forms of hunger. What is not visible in this picture? Kevin Carter's hunger to get this picture. Anecdotal information, history has it that Carter actually just left the spot after taking this picture. 3 months later, he died. But that's not the point. Died of depression, committed suicide. That's not the point. The point is, this is not something that you will find only in photography archives in 1994 Sudan. Ladies and gentlemen, this is there in millions of forms, more poignant. Vultures becoming a metaphor, of course, in this case, but all across India, right, starting from Delhi. I'm going to talk to you about some of them, or at least one of them. And before I go there, I just thought, since the Commonwealth Games are around, I should tell you that this is one medal we are there for. It's for keeps for India for some time to come. We are something like way ahead of entire sub-Saharan Africa put together when it comes to the number of hungry. Bangladesh, which is a country that we associated with famine as we studied economics and grew up, is a distant third. This is a mother and child I met in December 2009 in a place, otherwise, if I tell the name of the village, that it is in Ramnagar and it is in Karahal block, even the best of frontline readers wouldn't know that. But if I say that she's actually from the Chambal Valley, it may resonate something, because that's where they're from, very near to the Chambal Valley. He is actually a 4-year-old boy called Akash Saharia. Saharia is an adivasi tribe who lives there. When I met this mother, she told me that, Akash Saharia is actually the second child. The first one, a daughter, had died, apparently for lack of food. And she told me, most likely, she's very certain, that Akash Saharia would also go the same way. 3 months later, unlike Kevin Carter, we tried our best in the next 3 months possible. But I came to know that in March 2010, Akash Saharia went the same way like her sister. But that's not the point. The point again for me is that he has 8.1 million followers. There are 8.1 million children below the age of 5 in India today who will not definitely survive more than 12 months from today. In fact, 3 children will be dying every minute for just not having food. You probably can wrap up the numbers to find out how many died today. Given that, what I am concerned is, isn't it time we declared hunger as probably the country's greatest disease? Greatest to mean, its reach, its magnitude, its poignancy, the way it's numbing this nation, and the fact that we aren't bothered about it. I just want you to say that there are a couple of reasons why we're not able to tackle this despite everything else. And the fundamental one, to my mind, is that hunger is non-communicable. Every time I go abroad and come back, at the international airports, I'm sort of frisked and I have to pass through a monitor to see if I have swine flu, even today. If it is contagious, if it is swine flu, bird flu, or tuberculosis, we're all worried. We're worried because it might affect us. I shudder to think, just as we carry, mineral water bottles, I'm thinking that if hunger were to be communicable, we all would have carried food packets. And the moment you see kids running to beg for alms, you would probably dump the food packets and run away because otherwise we might catch hunger. The fact that it is not contagious, to my mind, is the greatest problem. It is not classified as a communicable disease. Second, I would like to think that it actually is a volcano, the way it is in India. 8.1 million is a number that's going to grow. But this volcano doesn't erupt like the one that erupted recently and doesn't disrupt flights. We have an obsession to worry about things that come through the airspace. I don't know why. Most of the diseases I'm talking about were first detected when a passenger got out on an aircraft and said that he was suffering from this particular disease. Unfortunately, this one doesn't disrupt any flights. The third factor is that these 8.1 million and another 50, 60 million others who are on their way to get to the 8.1, what you can call as moderately malnourished, they don't vote. It's a universal adult franchise. So given that situation, I think we have a sort of a problem which is something we have to find an innovative solution to solve. I'm trying to see if I can figure out what probably is the DNA of hunger. What is it that is such a deep-rooted issue? At one level, it looks so basic. At another level, it's not so easy like pulse polio, where you can actually give 3 drops and catch the nation's imagination and think that over a period of time we can actually eradicate it. You don't know where to attack. I guess one of the main reasons we have this problem is something as simple as not having access to food. I was reading yesterday in the Outlook, which published the weekly, that 60,000 tons of food grains actually are rotting or have rotted last week because there was not enough storage space in India and these were just victims of the monsoon. So you have 60,000 tons of food grain wasted on one hand and you have, my appalling statistics. Second, to my mind, is the whole issue of the problem of pregnancy. In the sense, I deliberately use the prefix problem of pregnancy. Actually, it's a normal biological process. But in India, it's almost treated like a disease. You have extremely undernourished young women becoming pregnant, and then they carry in their wombs a ready statistic for the 8.1 million. And then we have no other mechanism once this low birth weight child is born to protect her. So we have to worry about that particular complex stage. And lastly, I think the whole issue of, this is not a sexy political issue. And I highlight it again because to me that's also part of the DNA or the core of the problem. And unless we address these three, I don't think we're going to get there. I'm also trying to see if I can touch upon indirectly a little more on the manifested problems, which probably are also the solutions. I think one of the solutions the nation has offered to these children is that we'll subsidize fertilizers for you. We are probably one of the largest fertilizer subsidies, something to the tune of 12.8 billion pounds on last count for this fiscal. 12.8 billion pounds, billion. We have for fuel, that is petrol and diesel, around 11.2 billion pounds. We're getting there. In fact, just these two put together is going to feed not only just India, but I think all the 3 countries on that victory stand put together. So the problem is, we've decided to subsidize these 2 industries so that children probably will not be malnourished anymore. Second, and I don't want to get into this position on making reproductive rights for women a fundamental right, because it's a very complicated discussion by itself, which I particularly will bat for. But more importantly, I think we haven't been able to figure out that the women that I'm referring to, the hundreds of thousands of them in the unorganized sector, the ones who are part of what I call as double income many kids, who actually go to the farms, probably even ensure that we get breakfast every day by being farm laborers. For them, I don't think there is a concept of maternity leave in this country. They have to work overtime in those months. And to my mind, if we can look at how this particular section of society, which to me are the unorganized sector of pregnant women, who are going to be part of the DNA, unless we're going to make their pregnancy safe, unless we're going to ensure that there is something of a concept called safe motherhood which is natural, I'm afraid we're not really going to address much of the problem. The other issue to my mind is the whole point of looking at targeted universalization. I mean, every time I say this, it's almost like a contradiction. I mean, universalization cannot be targeted. I say this because I come from Hyderabad, the city, and right last week, next to my office, a Harley-Davidson showroom opened. They brought in 30 bikes to sell. In 3 days flat, all were sold. We boast, the city of Hyderabad boasts, of selling the maximum Mercedes-Benz every year, 7 years in a row. The same state of Andhra Pradesh reported this year that 88% of its population live below poverty line, and that all of them have what are called as BPL cards. So if this is targeted subsidy and targeted PDS, I think I'm seriously concerned. Because these 8.1 million kids of mine that I'm referring to, and their mothers, will never get it. They will be in the balance 12% who are probably buying the Harley-Davidson bikes. So there is a genuine need to consider how we can actually figure out where are these 8.1 million, and can we actually find them out, sort of tag them, and then give them the targeted food or nutrition or care. Can we have nutrition posts? I mean, we have technology that can tag every damn thing we do. I mean, there is no censorship on that at one level, as we just heard before. But is there any way, you know, these kids are, I can take you to a lot of them. They're just everywhere. Why can't we find them as a nation and do something about it? As a small effort, I feel this would give you an idea. This is, you know, actually the hunger belly of India. These dots that you see, these crosses you see, are actually the 100, from a children point of view, worst districts of India. And each, actually there are 100 squares out there. Each of them represents, you know, death knell. As if you were born there, I mean, I think it's the worst ovarian luck you've got. It's really the pits. And my plea as an idea, as a humble offering, on behalf of these voiceless 8.1 million and the number counting, is that we need to have universalized, targeted subsidies in these regions. If you can get these kids out, believe me, we have hope. Because you would have shown a way that the worst have been targeted, and then we can build on that, because the moderately malnourished are hanging out there in the fringes, almost in the same vicinity. They're just waiting to mature to become what I call as, what is popularly known in the jargons as SAM kids, severely and acutely malnourished. So these MAM kids are waiting to become SAM kids, and we'll all be not even reporting about them. To my mind, that is something we have to start. I would like to propose that, with all humility, that these kids need to be targeted, mapped, counted, and these regions and blocks probably identified. And we as a nation need to report this to ensure that these districts are not part of our shame. Before we have some other form of violent unrest to tell you that we need to go and worry about them. I think we should have what I call a hunger and malnutrition survey, which will identify these kids and do something about it. But before we do that Hangama survey, I think each one of us in this country who don't have to worry where the next meal comes from, have to begin a hangama in their mind. They need to really think, is this part of their psyche, their thought process? And if we do, it's not about just wasting food that we will change as a behavior, trust me. It's just that our whole approach to desires, wants, complaints itself will metamorphose. I've tried it out with my friends, and believe me, each one of us have to start making a noise, that we can't let this happen in this country. To me, that is the best yardstick. Let's do a hangama. Thank you. Jai Hind.